Why did you need to cut off a friend? She told another friend, right in front of me. Yeah, if my name didn't keep in touch, we'd never see each other. Light bulb went on. This was similar to mine. I realized I was doing all the work of maintaining the friendships and they never came to me. So I just stopped contacting them all and nobody noticed for 5 months. I started forming new friendships with the mindset of only having friendship. Who are in a partnership with me? They're all amazing. Where do you find friends who actually care? I honestly have no idea. At this point, I'm not sure if it's me, the fact that they're really busy, or I'm just annoying for constantly talking in group chats about daily little things, but please, a Shamai or croissant, show me your croissant. Yeah, I just can't find those people. Sorry, no croissants today, I'm on a diet. Sad face. He hit on my wife and tried telling her first that I said it was okay, and then tried to say I was having an affair with his wife, none of which was true. What the actual FCK? How long were you friends for? By the time it happened, we had been friends for about 10 years. I knew he was a bit of a creepster, but I'd never thought he would go that far. I was wrong. A few years ago, he divorced his wife after she recovered from a stroke. While she was recovering from the stroke, he had an affair with the in-home nurse that helped to take care of his wife. He married the nurse after the divorce. The more I hear about him, the more I want to forget. Dude's messed up. This type of event is starting to be reported as kind of common. When the wife of a relationship gets sick or gravely ill, a lot of men tend to flee the situation and are typically remarried within 18 months. Six years ago, my best friend held a firearm to me and told me to put out or get out. I obviously left immediately. We were severely addicted to pinks, and that was basically the only reason that I stuck around with him for so long. His actions that night actually saved my life. I've been clean 6 years at the end of the month. I never spoke to him again after he traumatized me like that. He passed away about a month ago from a D overdose. I just hope his mom is okay. A blessing in disguise. He murdered 2 people, premeditated. Yeah, that'd do it. What if they were the next Hitler, in the form of twins, like Tomax and Zamet? She was an emotional vampire. Everything was either a pity party for her or a celebration of dislike for achievement she had gotten. But if I or anyone else needed sympathy or anything, we were obviously very selfish people and were complaining too much. Or if anyone wanted to celebrate an achievement, we were rubbing it in her face. Also, she was super flaky. Once, we planned to meet at the gym and she never showed. I texted and called but got nothing until about 2 hours later when she said she was at another friend's house. I just posted my response to this question, and when I got 2 yours I felt like, holy heck, are we taking about the same woman lol? Lamau, you even got the emotional vampire at the beginning of the sentence down lol. I finally figured out that all that good-natured ribbing he did all the time was him just being a bully. He had issues and I was his favorite punching bag. I finally wised up and got rid of his A. It's just friendly banter, don't be so sensitive, yet it only ever seems to go one way. Well, that's your problem right there. You nail M with a couple witty stinging retorts in front of friends in the name of humor, and they end up looking like an A because they started it. They're only doing it because it's fun, and it's not fun when they are the ones who lose either their dense AF or they'll leave you alone forever. What's funny about this is that the only time I had a friend who did that, he took it great when I ribbed him back. I wasn't even doing it to put him in his place. I just fired back, and it turned out he just wanted some harder banter than he knew others were willing to indulge in. Many groups of men are like this. When we get together, it's gay humor and insults in place of affection. Once they are a really close friend, We greet each other with prejudice and leave each other with borderline flirtatious compliments. We are strange on paper. I recently looked him up under Megan's law. He's a convicted rapist of a minor. For England, anyone who wants to do a check like this, it's called Sarah's Law. We also have Claire's Law, which will tell you if a man has been domestically abusive previously. You can only request these in the UK if you have a justifiable reason. For example, if you are in a relationship with the person or they will have contact with your children, such as a lodger, which I think differs from Sarah's Law. However, it would be good if more people applied for these disclosures. In the UK, they don't seem well known. Yeah, I was putting it out there so others know so they can protect themselves. And if they have children. I was fed up with walking on eggshells around him all the time. Sunk cost had me sticking around in that friendship for way too long. But having the pleasure of knowing what actual great friends are like, I made the decision to pull the plug. I wish him well. I still want to see him eat, just not at my table anymore. I had 2 of those. I don't miss them. She was using me for my money. She had a plan for my paycheck every paycheck. Classic narcissist. Glad you got out? She had diagnosed borderline personality disorder. I would go to her house to remind her to take her medication. She did it for a minute, then stopped. When I told her she had untreated BPD, she said she had it under control and didn't need medication. Been through this situation too. After 17 years of being best friends, I finally figured out that she only kept me around to tear down my self-esteem to make herself look better. She never considered anybody else's feelings in what she did or said. If you tried to make plans and she couldn't come, she would bully you into changing it or make a big deal of how you must dislike her. Worst part was she was related to some big wigs in town, so if you pissed her off, good luck keeping or finding a job. Wow. 17 years is a long time to stay friends with someone like that. I'm happy you realized your worth and leveled up. He became like some neon. He was one of those people who were obsessed with American History X for all the wrong reasons. Similar thing happened to me. One of my friends called our other friend a beaner in an argument, and to make it worse, he refused to apologize and called us sensitive. He didn't say it as a joke either. He was serious. Not that if he was joking it would make it better, but it proved to us he wasn't just an insensitive prick who thought he was funny. He was actually racist. We booted his A from the group, and these days he's fully come out of the alt-right closet and embraced his bigotry. Similar here. My good friend became a transit guard, failed the cop exam, and had a serious inferiority complex. Casually starts to tell a story about an N-word who he arrested and hit for upsetting him. My jaw dropped and I told him to F off and reported his A to the transit authority. Semi-truck driver here. Effer called a black man an incompetent near simply because the guy was having a hard time backing up his truck and trailer and had asked for help. I called my dispatcher and told him that I need off this truck and back into my own. Never ever went back to team driving after that. He did call me later down the road asking what I was doing these days. I said him that I don't like to be friends with racist CS and hung up. Hopefully, he got the hint. Racist CS aren't great at getting hints. He told me he disliked my wife so much he didn't want to be around her. When I asked him what she did to offend him, he cited several situations that were all of the be eating crackers like she owns the place. Magnitude. And for the record, I had long disliked his wife as well, but I valued our friendship enough that I kept my mouth shut and acted nice. I'm sure it's inappropriate how funny I find the eating crackers quote. It's a phrase I've heard before. Be eating crackers. is when you're so annoyed with a person they could be sitting quietly just eating crackers, and it would still piss you off. This bee is over here eating crackers like who do you think you are? Definitely not a way I'd ever describe a friend's wife lol. Let's just say I began to suspect his obsession with the Confederate flag had to do with more than his family's heritage. Bro, I got that tattoo 'cause my dad died in 1988, I swear. That one on my chest, I just really like the last two letters of the rock band Kiss, that's all. They're just a strong supporter of Social Security. My so-called friends spread rumors about me so bad, it got to a point where jobs refused to hire me. I was unemployed for almost 2 years because of it. The first 8 words are enough to cut someone off. I'd say 6 words. If they spread rumors about others, they will move on to you eventually. D's and alcohol. Eventually you need to just walk away. Same. Best friend of over a decade. I finally had to get clean. He'd only ever call when he was drunk, which I could deal with. But then he'd call me a PSY for not drinking anymore and always tell me how horrible of a friend I was because I didn't do X or Y. Tried to explain to him that I had been a hair's breadth from dying from alcoholism, but it didn't seem to make a difference. Finally ended up ghosting him for my own sanity and health. He started doing Amway. Every call, every time, Amway. He was my best man and me his. Done. Over. After 20 years. TF is Amway, just looked it up, and all I could find was stuff on a beauty company. But that doesn't seem right. No, that would be correct. Amway is essentially an MLM scheme that relies upon people signing their friends up to sell its beauty product bullshit and building up their pipeline. And to sign up to sell it, you have to commit to paying fees and buying Amway inventory. This person was probably fed up with their friend trying to recruit them for Amway and making every discussion about it. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would get annoying very quickly. Trauma dumping. I became a therapist at some point and definitely wasn't qualified to deal with money problems, etc. This one, it was exhausting. They were constantly in crisis and it was always my responsibility to get them through it. I've been no contact for several weeks now and my anxiety is finally leveling back out. Wow, I relate to this so strongly. It's confusing and hard because you want to help someone through a crisis, but when you realize it's crisis after crisis with this person and they're not taking responsibility to do their part to make things better, eventually all you can really do for your own mental well-being is cut them off. Yes, and just when something appears solved, they find a new drama and suddenly you're thrown into another whirlwind. Do you think they do this on purpose? Like maybe they need the drama? Exactly, I think. In the case of the person who was in my life at least, it's kind of the only way they know how to connect. Like maybe in their families growing up they were ignored, unless they got super dramatic and they're playing that out again. It's sad and self-defeating because I'm sure people would want to be around them if their lives weren't so full of drama. My best friend in high school was a chick. She dated one of my other buddies through high school. When I first met her, I had wanted to date her, but she liked my buddy, so I moved on. Well, later on, I introduced her to my buddy, and she introduced me to her friends. I had a blast. Several years go by, we graduate. My buddy and my best friend go to college together and move in together. I go somewhere else. They don't do well together and break up. By this point, I have a girlfriend. She's great and she gets along with best friend. Several more years pass, we are still friends, she gets married, gets pregnant. Has some great kids, looks to be having an awesome life. I also got married, had kids, so and anyway. Well then, we were having a conversation about how things turned out, how cool it was that we were still friends after so long. Then she turns to me and says she made a bad mistake back in the day. She should have hooked up with me and had kids with me. So I would marry her and we would grow old together. She said this while rubbing her hand on my thigh. My wife and kids. Her husband and kids were in a different room. She shot her shot 8 years too late. If she had asked before dating my buddy, maybe. However, I love my family and my wife, so it was a no-brainer. She insisted and tried to kiss me. I said no. We finished out the evening, went home, and I haven't talked to her since. That was 8 years ago. She was my friend and tried to get me to cheat on my wife, while also cheating on her husband, while also telling me she should have trapped me when we were in high school. The person who I thought had been my best friend, who I thought I had known, was actually a terrible person. That's a pretty big shift to switch from best friend to terrible person in one kitchen conversation. I feel like there must have been signs she felt this way over the years. If not, then more than likely her confession has less to do with missing you and more to do with wanting an escape from the life she currently has. You dodged a bullet either way. You often don't notice the signs until after. All the flags are red when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. They were unbelievably toxic and annoying to even be around, ruined my reputation and my general self-being, and made me feel like SH for something I wasn't even at fault for. Same thing happened to me. They were selfish, toxic, and really manipulative. Made up false rumors about me, and when I left them for good, I was villainized. Old roommate. He backstabbed me with some harsh words, all because of a girl. Then almost front-stabbed me with a knife while I was sleeping. Seemingly had a semi-sober moment in his drunken rage and took it out on my bedroom wall instead. One could say there was too much stabbing going on. They got a new job and almost immediately their personality shifted. They started getting randomly paranoid, sharing memes and constantly talking about incredibly racist stuff, and not wanting to go to certain areas, even though we'd just been there weeks before. All of a sudden they were rampant crime areas. It became impossible to have a conversation with them without it becoming some rant about how his rights were gone and the world was terrible. Maybe it was always there, but it felt like one day. They're my friend that I've known for decades, and a few months later I'm dealing with a delusional wannabe survivalist. What kind of new job, if it was something very stressful, could that perhaps trigger the sudden personality change? Probably cop. Because they were the biggest narcissist known to man. Some examples include 1. Constantly referring to themselves as iconic, gorgeous, a legend, a celebrity. 2. Posting 700 selfies with a filter every day, clearly thinking people are obsessed with them. 3. They would call me constantly just to talk about themselves. When I would speak, they would yawn or interrupt me, or just start texting on their phone and ignoring me altogether. 4. They talked about other people and were really nasty to strangers, acting very entitled. 5. They had no empathy and did not take accountability for their nasty behavior. Nothing was ever their fault. They were perfect and it was everyone else who was the problem. They were very shallow, vain, and only wanted to hang around pretty people. 7. They used people to social climb. I can go on and on. But basically every symptom of narcissist personality disorder they had. I had a friend like that, not as bad. But after one phone call I hung up and I realized that not once she asked me how I was doing. It was all about her. I'm single and date. I have a relented ID. They don't ask me anything about me on the first date. I never talk to them again. These are basic conversations and D show they have no interest in knowing me. He used pictures of me to catfish men. That'll do it. College friend turned out to be our pissed who took advantage of drunk college girls at frat parties. High school friend got really into Trump MAGA stuff, really into it. The rest that I cut out and intentionally cut out was because I was ghosted entirely or we just stopped talking. Sounds like we have the same college friend. Found out last year he had a friend of mine after volunteering to bring her home when she was too drunk. She trusted him. We all did.